Last year's Mr. Irrelevant hasn't yet settled into the league. In fact, let's take a look at Brock Purdy's biggest weaknesses and drawbacks. Well, his performance depends on how much his teammates help him. He's had an impressive playoff debut in the win against the Seahawks, but if you looked closely, you might have noticed that he didn't do it all by himself. The fresh QB needs the receiver to be wide open. He can't work around it otherwise. This is apparent in the stats, as he was only 9 of 20 for 153 yards, with a 71.5 passer rating when his targets didn't have more than 5 yards of separation. At the same time, he was 9 of 10 for 179 yards and 3 touchdowns when a receiver had a separation of 5+ yards. So, Kyle Shanahan's scheme has worked out pretty well for Purdy.
Yeah, you see what a guy's capable of, and I mean, you don't want to keep asking guys to do stuff they can't do. You know, I hated when my coach kept asking me to run faster. I couldn't.
The player also went 8 of 13 for 172 yards with 3 touchdowns. There were no interceptions off play action, and he finished with a 145.0 rating. Credit is given where it's due, and Shanahan saw what his quarterback could work well with, and he gave him exactly that. But what's going to happen when Purdy ends up in front of a defense that's able to put pressure on the quarterback? Not everyone is as average as the Seahawks when it comes to coverage.
Yeah, for me, it's the most important thing with, my life and everything. It's what I've been raised on. And, I think it applies in every area of my life. Whatever I'm doing, I know what my purpose is.
Hopefully, the 49ers will be prepared for that kind of situation. In the meantime, Purdy's got to work on a couple of things to make him better prepared for a stronger defense. He can't grow a few inches, but he can work on that arm. One of the reasons why Purdy might have been picked so late in the draft probably has to do with his height. It's much shorter than the average QB. Of course, that's not something that he can do much about, but he does have to work around it to make sure he can make up for the losses it causes. He doesn't have a powerful arm either, and that's something an opposing team can use in their favor. If the defense puts pressure on his right side, they're only trying to force him to roll out to his left. Seeing as Purdy's a right-handed thrower, the left is his weak side. In this scenario, he'd have to turn around and reset before throwing the ball. If there isn't a complete defensive breakdown, there'd be a throwaway and the entire defensive schedule would go to waste. But he doesn't sit in the pocket and progress through reads, and that's all because his team hands him everything.
Feel where the teams were, how the environment was, and learn from the good and the bad of everything. So it's cool how coach does that, and I feel like he gets a good response out of the team when he shows those kinds of things. So.
That's a risky business because it's not completely sustainable, and he's expected to fall short soon. He's not your typical all-rounder. If he's good at following play design, he can't freestyle. It's a struggle for him to avoid pass rushers and blitzes, and that's only going to come up more once he's faced with professionals who've got the speed and athleticism to defend well. Coming back to height, it won't be easy for him to see the field at the next level, but he might just do well there too. You don't get anywhere without believing in yourself, and Purdy is living proof. He might have been a 7th-round pick, but he was still picked. And every day since then, he's worked hard to claim his spot in the team. That's also because he noticed where he was falling short. He's watched his college tapes and seen the areas where he needed improvement. There's no doubt that Purdy isn't a humble guy.
Yeah, I love these guys. I appreciate them. Just their leadership, and they've been through this, year after year after year, and for them to have respect for, what I've done.
He wouldn't be willing to be this honest and open otherwise. Then comes self-belief. He knows that if he puts in the work, he can make it to the next level. Why not? He's made it this far with the advice he's gotten and the effort he's put in. I'm totally seeing him improve in each game because he takes the feedback seriously. Most importantly, he wants to do better. Now, if you're doing everything in your power to be your best, nothing can hold you back. He's contributed to the latest 49ers win against the Dallas Cowboys. Both teams have a long history of going up against each other in the playoffs. This year was the 2nd consecutive season that they faced off in the playoffs. The iconic franchises have met a total of 9 times in the postseason. The 49ers have won 4 of those meetings, and the Cowboys have won 5, but San Fran have claimed the last 3 games against Dallas. The QB completed 19 of his 29 pass attempts for 214 yards. Although the opposing team's defense held him back from throwing a touchdown pass ever since he joined on as the 49ers starting quarterback. Still, he's realized just how much it means for him to be able to take part in this storied rivalry.
Final play, it looks like barring a penalty. Prescott over the middle of the turret, gets smoked right away, and that'll do it. The 49ers back to the championship game.
and that made him forget all about missing a touchdown. He's made it pretty far from being the last pick, so it's no surprise that he's grateful. But according to fans, he's still got some more work to do. So what does he need to do to become the 49ers starting QB? For a good percentage of the fans, Purdy has proved himself to be valuable for the 49ers. In their opinion, he doesn't need to do anything else to become the starting QB, but for others, he's got some proving to do. The biggest percentage of their fans believe he needs to fairly beat out Trey Lance in camp since he's taken his spot temporarily. Then there are those who believe he'd have to do something like winning the Super Bowl in order to claim his spot in the team.
I wasn't going to change, and I wasn't going to change for the world or anything. It was just continue to be myself, love on my teammates, be the same leader that I had been all year, keep my eyes on God, and nothing more than that.
But there are also those who ask just for a deep playoff run. If he's got that down, he's climbed his way into the big leagues. His game has been compromised, though. After all the effort he'd been putting in, fate took over with another plan. The rookie sensation suffered an elbow injury in the game against the Philadelphia Eagles.
It's across the entire league. A lot of fake pressure coming. Purdy, deck, floating in the air. Is it picked? No, hit the ground.
What's even worse is that his replacement, Josh Johnson, also ended up leaving the game after an injury. Purdy ended up under Eagles defensive star Hassan Reddick in a brutal sack, which made him fumble the ball and also injure his elbow.
Josh Johnson, the backup quarterback, is in. He's saying here that he can't throw, he can't do it. Aaron told us about the wrist injury.
Of course, the QB was taken out of the game immediately and into the medical tent, but the most unfortunate bit is that this could very likely be a long-term problem. According to an orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Mark Addix, this injury requires Tommy John surgery. This is also known as an ulnar collateral ligament reconstruction.
You'd have more Tommy John surgeries with football quarterbacks, but there are a lot fewer football quarterbacks than there are pitchers. But no, there are more UCL injuries in baseball throwers than there are in football throwers. It really is.
The recovery period could be anywhere above the 9-month mark, which means he could potentially miss out on the entire 2023 season. Purdy himself hasn't decided if he wants to go for the surgery right now or not. He's still weighing his options and getting different opinions. But according to the team doctor, he needs to get it done sooner than later. He does know that he'll have to miss some of next season, but as long as he comes back for training camp, he's good. The scary bit is that it's very likely for his break to be extended past 6 months. In that case, Purdy might lose out on all the progress he's made so far, which will obviously derail all his plans of progressing to the big leagues. On top of that, Trey Lance's ankle injury is just about healed, so who knows who will be the starting QB now? That's all for Brock Purdy's biggest weaknesses. See you in the next one.